DevilNeverCry.
Yes, you are reading the title right. Final Fantasy XVI now features a style gauge. What is up everyone, it is me DevilNeverCry, and today we're talking more Final Fantasy XVI, which recently received a large patch that includes some changes to the structure of the game's arcade mode. The arcade mode now features one addition that could potentially be considered a game changer. For those of you that aren't up to speed or need a refresher before we start discussing these changes, Final Fantasy XVI includes an arcade mode in which you're able to replay the game's dungeons whilst also being ranked on your combat performance. A feature that caused shockwaves and made headlines when it was first announced. After all, a Final Fantasy featuring an arcade mode seemed a little bit out there. Once you got to grips with the game's combat system, however, it all started to make sense. Unfortunately, however, when it came to playing the arcade mode on Final Fantasy or Ultimaniac, or hard mode and very hard mode respectively, the arcade mode fell short, specifically because of the structure and how points were effectively totaled up. The initial implementation of arcade mode and the ranking system thoroughly disincentivized the use of efficient or even stylish play, and instead forced people to use a very specific skill set or move list, and forced people to spend up to hours at a time going through very brief stages merely so that they can farm points. In a previous patch, Square Enix reworked and balanced out the point totals of certain moves to allow for greater depth in play, effectively stopping people from simply spamming certain moves just because they gave a large amount of points. They also added a time limit to the arcade modes to stop people sitting in there for hours at a time farming points. Now that we're up to speed, let's discuss some of the new changes. The first and most significant change I want to talk about is the technical bonus gauge, or the style bar as it effectively acts as. If you've played character action games like DevilNeverCry or Bayonetta, this feature will seem familiar. As you pull off different attacks and different combos, this bar will slowly begin to fill. Once the bar fills up and reaches a certain threshold, all of the moves that you perform from then on will effectively have a multiplier applied to them, increasing the amount of points that you get. If you stop attacking, however, the bar will slowly begin to decrease, with it decreasing at a faster rate the higher the multiplier you currently have it at. Anytime you pull off a perfect dodge, the bar will go up. Anytime you pull off a parry, the bar will go up. Anytime you pull off several different enemy stomps in midair and aerial combos, the bar will go up quite rapidly. On the other hand, whenever you take any damage, the bar will drop quite sharply, lowering your multiplier. If you also continuously spam the same move or combo, the bar won't fill at all. And the use of considerably overpowered moves like Odin's Zantetsuken will barely fill the bar at all. This is a welcome change in my opinion, and is a mechanic that effectively rewards people for successfully engaging with the game's mechanics, reading enemy attacks, being able to dodge them or parry them, or even just varying up your combos and getting enemies airborne and comboing them there. At the same time, it also heavily decentivizes people from merely button mashing or even standing there and farming points by waiting for your moves to come back. Having said that, that's not all that Square Enix have changed. One of the largest changes that they've made in my opinion is the inclusion of new accolades every time that you complete an arcade mode stage. Specifically, accolades and massive score bonuses that come into effect if you complete stages under an allotted time. Breaking down this new inclusion to its simplest form, it means that you're now able to speedrun your way through all of these arcade mode stages without worrying about building up score or playing stylishly, and you'll be rewarded for it. The last change I briefly want to touch upon that coincides with the rest of these is that Square Enix have now effectively reworked all of the point thresholds in arcade mode, also allowing for people to attain even higher score points. So with all of these changes laid out, what does it actually mean? Does the arcade mode actually feel fun to play at this point? And from my own opinion, I can say yes, there is a night and day difference, at least for me, between the way that the arcade mode launched and the state that it currently is in. Before, I'd have to spend ages trying to figure out the best approach for farming points and attaining that S rank on some of the harder difficulties, whereas now I feel as though I can hop into any of the arcade mode stages, and provided that I'm able to neaten up my gameplay, focus on not taking damage, going for things like precision dodges and parrying, and effectively keeping that style bar to its maximum rank, I can walk away with the S rank. And that's exactly what you're seeing in the background footage here. me playing as I normally play, just being cognizant that I'm trying to go for a better rank. I think it's rather commendable that Square Enix have taken the time to directly address community feedback and actually implement changes that make a significant difference. Especially when at the end of the day, the majority of people are simply going to play the game for its story as opposed to going and rank running in the arcade mode. In a previous video of mine where I covered the arcade mode, I specifically mentioned that it would be great to see them take things from DevilNeverCry, such as a time limit to limit farming, and even a score multiplier for completing stages under a specific time, and it's great to see that those are things that they've directly taken on board. What I didn't foresee them doing, however, is directly taking DevilNeverCry's style bar system and just providing their own implementation here in the arcade mode. Not that it's something that I'm complaining about. At this point, the only thing that I'd change about the arcade mode is the accolade system, particularly the fact that you can't see any of the accolades before diving into any arcade mode stage. Considering in this new patch they've added accolades that can substantially affect your score total, it would be great to see what accolades are available for each stage. This is especially pertinent as each arcade mode stage actually features specific accolades that you can only get on those stages and not in any of the others. By showing us the accolades before diving into a stage, it would allow us to enter one with a game plan and a list of things to tick off in our heads that we should do during gameplay to help us boost our overall score. But I digress. Perhaps that's a change that they'll include with potentially any new patch that comes along with the new DLC that launches in spring 2024, The Rising Tide. Something else I've seen a lot of people express interest in over social media is some form of a boss rush, which I am all for, effectively some sort of system that allows us to tackle bosses one after the other, or simply tackle bosses whenever we want without having to play through an entire stage beforehand, alongside a Bloody Palace or even a Horde mode. Think a chronolith trial, except it lasts for as long as you're able to survive. But with that, we come to the end of today's video and what I wanted to cover. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, specifically on the new inclusions of arcade mode, including this new style bar, which I don't honestly think anybody saw coming. If you enjoyed today's video, do be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as there is plenty more Final Fantasy content on the way. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.